In order to sketch our solution, we need to begin by taking each of these inequalities and putting them into what resembles slope-intercept form for a linear equation. So if we take our first inequality and subtract 5x from both sides, that will leave us with negative 3y is greater than negative 5x plus 21. If we divide both sides of the inequality by negative 3, we'll end up with y on one side and 5 over 3x minus 7 on the other. But we need to remember that because we're dealing with inequalities and we divided by a negative number, we need to flip the sign of the inequality. So what we'll end up with is y is less than or equal to 5 over 3x minus 7. That tells us the y-intercept of this, if we were thinking about it like a line, would be negative 7, so the point 0, negative 7 has to be on our graph. We also know the slope of this line would be 5 over 3, which means to find another point in the line, we can take our current point and move up 5 and right 3. If we move up 5 and right 3, we'll end up with a second point, and now we need to answer two questions. Because y is less than or equal to the other side of the inequality, we know that we want to use a solid line to indicate we're including the points on that line because y could be equal to them. Because it's less than in y, we're going to shade in all the values below that line. So if we sketch our line, we can add in our shading below. And now we're going to use the same approach to deal with the other inequality. We start out with 3x plus y is greater than 7. If we subtract 3x from both sides, we'll have y is greater than negative 3x plus 7. And that will be the inequality that we're trying to look at. So if we pretend that this is a linear equation, we can say the y-intercept would be 7, which means the point 0, 7 should be a point on this graph. We also know that the slope here is negative 3, which is the same as negative 3 over 1, which means we can take our current point and move down 3 and right 1 to find another point on our graph. So if we move down 3 and right 1, we'll have another point, and again we need to answer two questions. Because y is greater than the other side of the inequality, means we're going to use a dotted line. Y can't be equal to it, so we don't want to include the values on the line. And because it's y and greater, we're going to shade above our line. So if we sketch in our line, we need a dotted line, because again, y being greater and not equal to means we can't include those values on that line. We can add in our shading, and from here, the values we're going to include are the values on the blue line, because y could be equal to those, and everything then where there's overlap between red and blue. And that will be our final answer.